You are listening to the Hiking Radio Network, where we talk the walk with shows by hikers, about hikers, for everybody.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning.
Welcome to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast with the spotlight on section hikers.
And I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come. And we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jester Section Hiker Podcast, your premier podcast with the spotlight on section hikers, and I am your host, Julie Jester Gayhart. Today, I'm rounding up the troops, so to speak, and having a fireside chat with my co-hosts that have been on the podcast with me over the last several months. I wanted to have an episode and chat with Charissa, Austin, and Jacqueline and have them reflect on what it's been like to be part of a podcast on a regular basis. It's been an interesting journey for me to have co-host on the show. When I originally came up with this idea, I thought, wow, I'll have 3 different perspectives, personalities, and various topics from these like-minded section hikers. What I ended up with was so much more. We covered topics addressing mental health, healing in nature, hiking fears, hiker safety, and Austin even agreed to chat about hammocks with me, this newbie here in that world. What I ended up with are 3 new lifelong friends, mentors for me in their craft, with Charissa being able to calm my spirit with each episode, Austin inspiring me to create more out of my own comfort zone, and Jacqueline reminding me that trail is home and sharing content that is real and authentic is what's most valuable. I also learned not to overextend myself. Thank you, Charissa. I learned I can reach out to a famous tent creator who was Dan Durston, and he will come on the podcast. Thanks, Austin. And Jacqueline reminded me I can still have a 3-hour conversation with people and look forward to the next call. So thanks for that, Jacqueline. Thanks to all of you for coming back to this week's episode. And now on to my co-hosts, Charissa, Austin, and Jacqueline. All right, you guys, welcome back to the podcast. And for the first time ever, all 3 of my co-hosts are here with me. So let's get right to it. Austin, welcome back.
What's going on?
Charissa.
Great to be here.
And RVA.
Hey.
I don't know why I'm laughing. So because this is just a fun crew, but all right, so these guys are here with me, and I'm going to go ahead and start this off. You guys know RVA. She has no notes, so I'm kind of scared. RVA, you feeling good about it?
I feel good today.
So what I've done is I wanted to have you guys on and kind of have what I'm calling a fireside chat. And what that means for me and what that means for the audience is we're going to kind of recap our co-hosting episodes. And as I was looking back at the episodes and you guys heard in my introduction, I kind of broke this down where I thought, wow, I'm going to have 3 different people on and we're going to talk about all 3, all kinds of different topics. And we did that. But the conclusion that I came to is we had a lot of awesome episodes about mental health, healing in nature, and different topics within the hiking community. And what these 3 co-hosts did is you guys kind of put yourself on the line. And what I mean by that is you guys all had individual conversations with me where not only did we talk about your mental health, but I talked about mine as well. And like, for example, Austin, with your PTS, Charissa, hiking with your daughter and seeing things through her eyes. And then RVA, on your very first episode, you shared about the loss of your mother and finding home in the outdoors. And what I want to know, and we'll start with Austin because I'm an educator, so we're going in alphabetical order. What was that like for you guys to come on a podcast and kind of share, some deep emotional things that you guys have dealt with and that hiking has helped you with?
I think for me personally, coming on the podcast and talking about my innermost feelings wasn't something that I was just like, oh yeah, let's do that. Like I had to obviously build up to that in life. But I like to think that the problems that we experience, the things that we experience in our daily lives, we're not the only ones that feel that. And so that was kind of what helped me kind of come out of the shell a little bit, is hoping that me talking about it helps somebody else see it in themselves, because that's generally the way that I am able to recognize things in myself, is when I hear somebody else say it and I'm like, yes, that's exactly. So I think that's what helped me, not to take away RDA's, thunder, but listening to one of her podcasts with you, and I had that exact reaction listening to that podcast. I was just like, absolutely, yes, I totally identify with that. So that's what kind of helped me come out and talk about innermost feelings and how dealing with post-traumatic stress and managing it, and how being in the outdoors and creating content and everything like that has kind of helped. So, yeah.
And Charissa, I know you and I have had, I feel like sometimes we would talk for an hour even before we recorded on our early Sunday morning chats. So how has it been for you? Because you know what? I have to commend you. You're the reason, these other two co-hosts are here, because, you reached out to me with an idea and I was like, yeah, let's do it. So reflect on talking about your own mental health.
Well, I feel like, a lot of my story in hiking with Julia is just sort of this trajectory of, hiking with her as a toddler on my back. And so we were kind of limited as to the difficulty of hikes that we could do. And then there was this stage of her wanting to be out of the pack. And so there were shorter, easier trails we had to do. And so that was kind of at a stage where I was really wanting to get the miles in and do more challenging hikes, but I had to dial it back and go her pace. And so, we did that. And then I kind of built her up to this point where she was wanting to do more miles and more challenging hikes. And so I guess I have been able to, look at other moms. There was a mom in my hiking group the other day who was getting over an injury, and she was out there on a muddy trail where they've had a lot of snow melt, and she's slipping and sliding around with one toddler on her back and a little one on her front. And she's like beating herself up over, slipping and sliding around on this trail. And I'm like, hey, hike your own hike, but also, who are you out there hiking for? Give yourself some grace, and make sure that you realize that your kids are only going to be this age for a little while, and then you're going to move on to that next stage, and don't beat yourself up over this. So take it easy on yourself, and just realize that you're going to move on to the next step and the next phase, and this isn't forever, and just go easy on yourself. And I think that's been something that I've had to learn a lot. And, Julia has surprised me with her hiking. I never kind of thought we'd get to the point we were at. And I can remember a time when I thought, I just wanted to hike with other adults because I'm like, my little one is going to hold me back. And that hasn't been the case necessarily. So just hike your own hike. I just love that statement.
There you go.
Because it's so true.
It is. And sometimes it's cliche, but it is true. But I have to say, you've done it again to me. Like, you've mesmerized me. I'm sitting here like, there she goes, dropping knowledge. So, RVA, how about you?
Well, one of the sayings I always say on my YouTube channel is I always want to keep it real for the people who are watching. And I think being on your show and talking about something that I really hadn't talked about before, losing my mom and being vulnerable in that way. I kind of think, when we are vulnerable ourselves in a social type platform, I think it really does reach a lot of other people, and it tends to, you connect with other people, but people start thinking about their lives and how they are feeling similar things and have gone through similar things. And I think we, as a community, we learn from each other. And I think when we're vulnerable and we put ourselves sort of out there on the line, I just think we're helping other people, and we may not even realize it while we're talking about it and while we're doing it. But I think the community in itself a lot of times is vulnerable. And I have really learned from a lot of other people from their vulnerability. So I really didn't mind putting myself out there and talking about it. Everybody deals with loss, and being outside helped me. And I know it's helped so many other people. So I didn't mind doing it.
And I will say for myself, I think recording with you guys, like Austin and I have had conversations, Charissa and I have had conversations, and then you and I had conversations, and I've said stuff on the podcast, on the 3 of your episodes, that I've never said before. So, I kind of opened up. It was like, I go back to Carissa's episode, and RVA, I know you and I have talked about this offline, like, I'm not planning a thing. And I don't know if I've ever would have said that before. There is somewhat of, I don't want to say pressure, but when you're doing a hiking podcast, people, have this, I'm going to assume that they think you're out hiking all the time. Even though the 4 of us, we are section hikers, and that is our, the way we get things done on trails. And we've all discussed that in length. So I have to thank you guys for, kind of bringing me out of my shell and, saying I'm not going to check boxes anymore. I'm not going to have these, RVA style spreadsheets where, and it's actually been kind of freeing for me. I do have plans to go hike, but I don't have this, I must do this. So, Austin, have you noticed any changes in yourself as far as what you and I've talked about on the show?
I think, my YouTube channel's Side Trail Adventures, and I've explained like the premise behind it being that like it's kind of the antithesis of the big 3 trails and everything like that. And with the understanding that you can find adventures in your own backyard. And I'll go ahead and put it out there. Yes, I did fly across the country last year and through hike a big trail. But it also helped me to understand that I really like my backyard too. Like all these trails that we have in our backyard, I'm very fortunate to have, the MSTs 20 minutes from my front door. In the kayaking world, we just did a big, it was a few months ago, but we through paddled the Deep River. So about 120 miles of the Deep River here in North Carolina. And that was just as much an adventure as anything that California had to offer. That was an hour from my house. And so that was it, that was how I started the channel. And I started just looking for things to film but realized that, there's that original premise still holds true. And even more so, because having the channel has helped me kind of explore other things that are out there that I didn't even know about, because I'm a North Carolina transplant. So the MST was how I got to know North Carolina. And it's just opened up all of these doors that, there's all kinds of stuff all over the place. You just have to look for it. And, like I said, I'm fortunate to have stuff that's nearby. But even those that don't have things that, they don't have the MST 20 minutes from their door, or they're not a few hours from the mountains. I would challenge you to just take some time and look. Because I guarantee you there's something out there, whether it's a state park, state forest, national forest, wilderness area, city park, anything. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there. And so that's kind of what has helped me. I've kind of come full circle in the whole Side Trail Adventures thing. Like, you don't have to have some something that Instagram's going to ooh and ah over.
Yeah.
You can still get that same type of fulfillment from just a quiet section of woods.
Yeah. And I know, Charissa, you and I chatted about, battlefields, going and walking around, various battlefields, and you have family ties to, battlefields and what that meant to you. And, I go back to I laugh about the 52 hikes. I mean, I'm not trying to laugh about it, but I did hear it almost every episode you and I chatted about. You were like, I'm done with the 52 hikes. And I think you've had growth in that area as well.
Right. I mean, I think it's kind of, I don't know if silly is the right word, because I don't want to say the challenge is silly. It's silly for me to do the challenge again when I'm done it in 5 or 6 months every time I attempt to do it, because it's just not the right fit for me anymore. But at the same time, it's a fun way to get out. And I think it's a great way for a lot of people to challenge themselves to get outside. But yeah, I mean, battlefields are a great way. That's something that I'm surrounded with here in Maryland and the DC area. There are a lot of battlefields and great public lands to get out and walk on. And, I've had a lot of health challenges this year that have kind of kept me closer to home, and I'm just happy to get outside when I can. So I've learned to kind of scale back and appreciate the little things. And if it's my backyard, if it's, 5 minutes away at the C&O Canal, I'm happy with that. And I'm, scaling it back and appreciating nature when I can get out in it, and really just soaking in all of those, all of the good juju in nature that I can get.
At RVA, I mean, your trail name is, pretty much the state of Virginia. And you correct me if I'm wrong, you're in year 3 of your channel, and we never really got into this, but you're looking to make some changes, kind of on your channel too. So do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. But real quick, to piggyback off of Austin and what Charissa said, all of your episodes from all of you guys have helped me just recently through something that I'm going through. I haven't made a video in a month. And it's the first time in 3 years on my channel that I have not made a video. And it's a self-imposed pressure that we put on ourselves as YouTube creators and Instagrammers to constantly put out footage and stuff that you're creating out there. And I've had health issues and I haven't been able to go hike. I've been able to get outdoors, going to places close to home and appreciating those, going out and camping. And that's what I've had to have as my nature therapy to, because I'm in this situation where I can't go hike right now. And so I think we all face something, whether it's, we have to spend so much time at work or family obligations, and we just go through changes as we evolve over time and live life. And I think we just have to choose in that time frame what way of getting outdoors best suits us in that time frame. But back what you were saying, Julie, this year for my 3rd year, I've been evolving a little bit, and I've really wanted to give back and help other people. And so my focus in making videos this year is going to be more about how I can answer some of those questions to help other people get in the outdoors, or, maybe they're afraid to get started. And, there's so many things that a lot of people who want to go outside, they're afraid of in a lot of different ways. I don't have the right gear. I don't know where to start. I don't know how to plan. So I really want to start addressing some of those things just to help other people this year.
And I think that'll be great. And I know, Charissa, you were doing some riding for the Potomac Appalachian Trail Club, and you set that to the side, and you've got some other things going on. And you wrote a beautiful article about you and your daughter. So you haven't given up riding altogether. Maybe it's just taken a different form.
Well, I've always said that I love storytelling, and I actually said maybe it's kind of taken on the form of podcasting lately.
Uh-oh, could that be a future Charissa show?
Maybe, who knows?
Maybe, okay. Well, we'll keep you posted, everybody.
I would listen to that show.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I think we said that maybe in the first episode with me, and you were testing the waters.
Yes.
It sounds like, you liked what you did.
I do. It's definitely different, especially the editing process than writing.
Yeah, for sure. And, you don't have to do all the notes like RVA. So
True.
So Austin, what about your creative process? And I know we have an episode that everybody heard where we went over Austin's filming and storytelling. And that was an interesting episode because I think you're kind of changing in what you do on your YouTube as well.
Yeah, it wasn't something that just kind of happened overnight. It's definitely been a progressive thing. But it's more of, instead of a vlog type video, it's more of trying to convey a feeling and tell a story. And that's sometimes through talking to a camera. Sometimes it's through, ambient sounds and, B-roll and that kind of thing. But I have, and maybe this is segueing too far into our next part of the conversation, but
segue away.
But I have really enjoyed being on the podcast because just like we mentioned earlier about how you've said things on the podcast that you've never said before. And I think that definitely holds true for me because it's given me an avenue to talk about things that, and like RVA, I know you feel my pain, like making videos sometimes can be a pain. Like it's depending on what you're trying to talk about or what you're trying to set up or anything like that, sometimes it can be a little more effort than you're willing to put forth to talk about something. Whereas, like this episode, just getting together and talking just feels very natural. And so that's definitely something that I kind of see more of my creative process kind of going in that direction. And not necessarily relying just on video to try to tell stories or convey feelings or talk about stuff.
That is awesome. So I've created 2 new podcast monsters.
Mm-hmm.
RVA, what about you? I know you and I have not had as many episodes as Austin and Charissa, and my fault on that. I brought you in later in the game, but talk about your process with the podcast, because I know and I make fun of your notes, but being behind a mic is different than being in front of video. So maybe share a little bit of that perspective.
It definitely is a lot different. When I creatively make videos as what I consider myself as a visual storyteller on my YouTube channel, sometimes I plan out maybe things that I might want to cover on this particular hike. And, I'm going to research because that's my thing and I always have to research. But yeah, being on the podcast, it's a little bit different. Yeah, you have notes that I made, but we sometimes go off of topic. And so I don't have those notes to go by. And I love it because we all tend to learn when we're out of our comfort zone. And I think on the podcast, I'm kind of out of my comfort zone, not by talking because I'm a talker, but by, having to come up with answers on the fly that you haven't thought about and planned because I'm a planner. So I think it's really good for me. And I think it's a good learning process for me. And yeah, I do different things on the channel. I change it up sometimes and sometimes I get stuck in a rut, but I think it's a breath of fresh air to be a part of your podcast and coming together and meeting Austin. I wouldn't have met Austin like right now if I hadn't been on your podcast. And I love it. And I'm honored that you've had me on as one of your co-hosts. And I'm excited for the future.
And we touched on some topics. And I will say this, hopefully you guys had the chance to listen to Spider Meatball's episode. And because of me recording with the 3 of you made me a better interviewer for him. And what I mean by that is Austin and I talking about PTS and, me having to dive deeper into the meaning of that and what that was. And RVA, you and I talking about rape and murder. And, like that is a thing. That is a real fear in people. And then, Charissa, you really made me like get down in the depths of my heart a little bit on, where I am in my own hiking. And when I interviewed Spider Meatball, I was more vulnerable in that, episode, which made him, he just opened up about suicide like I've never heard before. And I was like, wow, man, I just love you. And I'm so glad you're open and I'm so glad you're here. So, being vulnerable really has made me, I think, a better interviewer. So I can thank the three of you for that. And I don't know if you guys have any comments on that episode. I know RVA, you reached out to me and said, wow, I'm in the car right now. So I don't know if you want to speak on that a little bit.
Sure. A lot of times I listen to podcasts when I'm driving to a hike or camping. And this was when I listened to Spider Meatball's episode. And I almost had to pull the car over on Interstate 95 because I was literally sobbing. Like that episode just hit me at a time where I'm going through like not anything compared to what he went through, but where I'm just all caught up in my feelings because I can't get on the trail and I have to have surgery myself. And it just kind of hit me like this, what he was saying. It's not that bad. Don't think about the past. Don't think about where you're going in the future. And just every word he said, I was just like waiting for the next thing. Like I was hanging on every word that he said. And it was just such a powerful episode. Like I honestly think it's one of my favorite episodes that you've done. And he was just, it was raw, but it was so positive because he talked about coming out on the other side and he's only been hiking for just a short amount of time.
It was unbelievable.
But what it's done for him. Absolutely.
And then, when he said he worked for Z-Packs, I was like, oh man, we're going to, talk about gear. He's not interested in the gear, like at all. Like,
no.
No.
He doesn't want to talk shop.
And I'll toss the baton over to Charissa here. I don't even know if you guys know this. I go back to Charissa getting all this started. It really got started with Dr. Aaron's episode with Charissa. When he was talking about how the Buckeye Trail saved his life. And he and I talked about suicide, which led to Charissa reaching out to me, about some different podcast topics. So I don't know, Charissa, if you want to speak on that.
Yeah, I just feel like there are so many different ways that people go into the outdoors because of their mental health. They're just huge mental health ties. And for me, I think I was, interested in how the science kind of backed up the fact that, yes, nature is very healthy for us. And, for me, I've said 1,000 times, it all started with Florence Williams's book, The Nature Fix. And I'm fascinated with that book and how she has gone out in nature with women who have been, victims of domestic violence and veterans, and just the impact of, the scientific evidence that where they've worn skull caps that have, tested brain waves, and just how she sat around at campfires and had their own campfire chats and talked to people after the 3-day effect. And I'm just fascinated by it because when I initially got into hiking, I had just had Julia. She was about 6 months old. I left a job that I really, really loved. And I had kind of some feelings about that I hadn't fully processed. I was still probably a little postpartum hormonal. And so I was kind of going through my own stuff, and I don't think I fully realized how good nature was for me until, people were seeing me maybe a year into like really being into hiking, and they're like, you just seem like this totally different person. Like, you seem so confident, you seem so happy. And I'm like, I don't think I even know what happened. Like, what the heck happened? And that's why when I read the book, I was like, this is what happened. Like, there's really something to this. Like, nature is amazing. It's so therapeutic for us. And ever since then, I've just been so fixated on how beneficial nature is for our mental health. Like, it's fabulous. Get out there.
Exactly.
Do it.
I'm kind of getting sad. I feel like, we're kind of wrapping up this co-hosting season. I'm over here like, wow, what am I doing? Yes. And then you guys don't know this. This was not part of my initial email. So I usually turn the episode over to, and I'm going to do that part, but I just wanted to personally thank each of you. I'll start with Austin. I mean, my goodness, we interviewed Dan Durston. I mean, seriously, a year ago, I would have never emailed him and said, hey, let's come on this and let's make a video and put it on yours. So I thank you for that. So you have taken me to different creative levels. And Charissa,
likewise.
I mean, truth be told, the wild card episode that you and I did where we pulled those cards, that was a lot of fun. And it was very ironic, those cards that we pulled, what the topics were. So thank you for introducing me to that. And RVA, that first episode that you and I did, I like the overcoming our fears, but I just feel like you really opened up, and now I know you so much more, and it allows us to connect. So I guess if I have to wrap up the season, I'm just so thankful for all three of you that you were willing to come on the show. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys now. We'll start with Austin. And I'm calling this wrapping up the season because we're coming back. And I hope you all three of you agree. So I'm going to make them raise their hand so the listeners can't hear it. So yeah, we're all raising our hand. No. Okay. Hey, we're back in this. So it won't be the last time you hear from these guys, but Austin, kind of wrap it up, what you thought about these last several months.
I think just doing the podcasts have opened my eyes creatively to what I didn't even think I could possibly enjoy. And the creatively, some of the projects that we're going to be doing are things that I never in a million years thought that I would even be interested in. And now it's all I think about. So I'm very, very excited about what we've got planned. But I guess my final thoughts would be just to those that are maybe getting started either in creating content on the internet, whether that's, Instagram or YouTube or whatever. And for those that are maybe just kind of dabbling in getting into the outdoors, the best time to go is now. The best time to create something is now. And you don't have to have, do it safely, your 10 essentials and all. But get outside. You don't have to have the fanciest gear, whether you're camping, whether you're shooting videos, whether you're taking pictures, just get out there. It'll be fun. You'll make mistakes. We all do.
Charissa?
I have loved that this experience is helping me to be vulnerable. RVA is great at helping me to be vulnerable. I have always felt like if I'm vulnerable, it's a sign of weakness, and that's totally not true. And so I think I've always had this wall up to kind of sharing my true self with people. And so this has been a great opportunity to really talk it out and share those feelings and share, deeper inner emotions with people. And so I think my advice to people, what Austin said is superb. Like this is the time to get out, just do it. Don't let things stand in your way. My only thing to add to that would be make sure at the end of the day that you're doing it for you, not for Instagram, not for an audience. Make sure you're doing it for you, not what it looks like on social media or what it looks like to a friend or a follower or anything else. Make sure you're doing it for you.
Awesome. RVA?
Oh, I'm just honored to be a part of your podcast. And we had been talking for a long time, like at least 2 years. And it's just nice to have connected with you and to now be on your show. I have just learned so much about hiking and being outside and going through different things, and being vulnerable out there just opens you up to so much more than you can even imagine. I mean, when you open yourself up, like I mentioned earlier, you are learning from yourself. You're learning from the people that you were opening up to. Some of your viewers have reached out to me on the first episode and just have had just amazing comments and support with me, like losing my mom and that sort of thing. And if I hadn't been on your show, I might not have connected with them. And definitely just get out and go hike if that's your thing. Go camp, whatever type of outdoor activity it is that you love or you want to try, go try it now. I mean, we're not guaranteed to be here tomorrow. And if you want to do something, just go out there and go for it. I mean, the worst that can happen, you want to go paddleboard, you fall off, but you just get back on, right? So I just encourage you to just try new things and don't wait. Do it now.
Excellent.
I've definitely fallen off paddleboard.
I've got to be vulnerable enough to even get on a paddleboard. So there you go. All right, you guys, this has been great. Again, I really appreciate everything from all three of you. We're going to take a few months off from co-hosting, and we're going to have some adventures. And I think maybe we should just all come back on together again after a few month break and find out what we've been up to and kind of go from there. All right, you guys, have an awesome summer, and we will reconvene in the fall. Such a great time chatting with Charissa, Austin, and Jacqueline all together and be able to share a great conversation. If you haven't had a chance to listen to all of my co-hosts and their individual episode, I will leave links in the show notes that will direct you toward their specific shows. You can think of it as a playlist for each co-host. Next week begins a new series on the podcast titled Jester's Class of 2022 Section Hikers. Each week for the next 14 shows, I will be introducing you to section hikers that are out hiking this year on various trails. This has been a great set of episodes for me to put together, and I cannot wait for you to hear about, encourage, support, and follow each of these fellow section hikers. If you want a sneak peek on who you're going to hear from next week, head on over to Instagram and follow Skyhawk8947V. As always, you can go to the hikingradionetwork.com and click on the Jester Section Hiker Show to find all of today's show notes, pictures, and links mentioned in this episode. If you find value in what we do here at the network and want to give back to help in the production of all of our shows, you can always leave a donation by clicking on any one of the donate buttons found on our website. And be sure to leave us a note on why you enjoy our shows. Thanks for listening, everybody. Be safe out there and happy section hiking.
I'm wondering if you'd go wandering with me through the wilderness and woods to where the winds are blowing free, through the darkness of the night, heading toward the morning light. I wonder if you'd wander with me, and I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come, and we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river through the woods. You're wondering if I go wandering with you, what kind of trouble we'll get ourselves into. Would it be wrong to tag along with a band of vagabonds? You wonder if I'd wander with you. So I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come. And we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river and through the woods. I'm wondering if you'd come wandering my way, if you ever get lost or if the trail leads you astray. The music of the pack can always bring you back. I wonder, can we wander away? And I'll spread the word and you beat the drum. We'll round up the troops and get the gang to come. And we'll leave the streets and these neighborhoods, head over the river